and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. My name is Kara Hunt, and I am the host of the Cheer Up Podcast. And with me is my dear friend, author, and speaker, Sherry Swalwell. How are you doing on this wintry morning, Sherry?
I am doing great. Can you believe that Valentine's Day has already passed? We're already in the midway mark um of February. I had to stop and think for a second. I'm like, is this the third week? It is. It's the third week of February already. That time just keeps flying by.
It really does fly by, like fly, like okay. Wait, just fly by, and it's so interesting. Um, my grandmother's ears, excuse me, my grandmother's words keep sounding in my ears because I remember her saying something along the lines of, "Oh, when you get older, the days just seem to go so much faster." like, I'm like, oh, so I'm getting older because remember when we were younger and time just, oh, I can't wait to be 16 so I can drive. Oh, I can't wait to be 18 so I can do this. Or I can't wait till I'm 21. Remember those? And it seemed like
I do.
forever. Yes, and it seemed like forever when those came, you know, because back then I don't know so much now because my boys are so much older, but back then those were just like maturity marks, right? That
Yeah.
parents used to give. Oh, when you're 16, you can wear makeup. My mom didn't say that, but I know a lot of parents did. Oh, when you're 16, you can do this. Oh, when you're 16, you can get a license. I do remember that. Oh, when you're 16, you can do this. And then you're 16, and then it's like, oh, well, you're not considered an adult in your state until you're 18. But when you're 18, you'll be able to do this. And when you're 18, you'll be able to do that. So then you go there, and it's like, oh my goodness, it seemed like it took a long time. And then there was the always lovable 21, right?
Yep.
That's when you were really considered an adult, right? At least legally. And wow, it just seems so long to get through those were like goals. And now it's just like I was gonna give an age mark for me at right now, but I'm going to decide against that. Uh, so it's like, but it's different. We have different age markers, now, and I really don't even do it so much by age anymore. It's more of like goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like goals and things that I want to do. Not that age isn't important because I think we all ought to have the hugest party on our birthdays, honestly. God has blessed us with another year of life, and I think we ought to have the bands playing and the all the food and everything else. So um it's just so birthdays are that, but I just don't really those kind of like are my goalposts anymore. It's they're smaller but much more meaningful. Does that if that makes any sense?
Yeah,
And
it does.
you were mentioning earlier about um, Valentine's Day, and a lot of people know Valentine's as the day of love, right? you know. So, and if you are listening to the podcast today, we love you. I can speak for Sherry in this regard. I just want you all to know that we love you. We care for you. You mean more to us, all of our listeners, nationally, internationally. You all mean so much more to us locally, even much more to us than I think we will ever be able to express. So, in a theme of love and quote unquote Valentine's Day, I just want to say how much we love you, how much we care about you. And Sherry, did you want to say anything?
Oh, I completely agree. We are so grateful for everyone who listens every week. We're so grateful for the comments that we get. We're so
Yes.
grateful for
Mm-hmm.
just the engagement. We just have a heart for people. We have a heart for you, and we really truly just want to get to know you better. how we can pray for you, how we can encourage you, what topics are of interest to you that you want to hear in 2023. We just, again, like Kara said, we just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. And for the love, you guys also show us on social media. For if you're new to the podcast, just so you know, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And on you can look us up on Facebook. We have a Facebook page as well. And so you can look us up there, and you can find all of our podcast episodes just by Googling us. We're on every major podcasting platform, and we also have a website. And so if you Google us, Bing us, DuckDuckGo us, whatever your search engine is, you should be able to easily pull us up. And it's Cheer Up Podcast, and up has an explanation point behind it. And so you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Alexa, Amazon Echo, and all the other ones that are out there, iHeart and everything else. So, and this week we are continuing to talk about forgiveness. Today is part 3 of our February forgiveness series. And the first week we talked about forgiveness. What it is, and as Christians, why we should try to pursue a forgiveness lifestyle, walking in forgiveness lifestyle. Last week, we covered the benefits of walking in forgiveness, walking in that freedom, walking out of unforgiveness into forgiveness. And so if you want to go back and listen to those 2 episodes, please feel free to do so. Please feel free to like and subscribe and download from wherever you're listening from, because not only does that help the podcast, but it also helps put us into that particular platform's algorithm, so that when people are looking for like a podcast of our type that offers encouragement, then it comes up faster. So the more likes we get, the more subscribes, the more downloads, then the higher up we come in the ranking, so to speak. And then if someone's just like, I just want to hear some encouragement today or something cheerful today, and then all of your likes, subscribes, and downloads, all of that help us put us higher in the algorithm and in the rankings and make it easier for people to find us. So, but again, going back to love and forgiveness, that's really what forgiveness is all about. When you really think about it, and when you really search the scriptures, you really find out that God really wants us to walk and live in forgiveness because He loves us. So, in a way, and it's not even in a way, it's a direct parallel to Valentine's Day. Because Jesus, as Christians, Jesus is our first love. God is our first love, right? And He so loved us, that God so loved us that He gave His only begotten Son. And Jesus rose from the dead for us. And everything He teaches us, everything He promises us, everything He asks us to do is based on love. And if February is considered the month of love, or the month that we celebrate love, then we have to cover forgiveness, because forgiveness is just another one of those topics that is just bathed in love. Do you agree, Sherry?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm kind of going to go off a little bit, but yet I'll land the plane and then you'll see how it correlates. But just this week, I heard somebody say, they were talking about, somebody asked them the question, can a person curse somebody? And again, I promise I will land the plane and it will make sense. And the response was, yes, by our words, we can consciously or unconsciously curse somebody. So every time we gossip or talk negatively about somebody, that's one of the reasons why God hates it so much, is because it's a curse over somebody else's life. So going back to what you said, where it all goes back to love, if we truly embrace God's love in our life, then we will truly embrace loving others, those that we like, those that we don't like, those that we know, those that we don't know. So why then would we choose to harbor unforgiveness, which leads to gossip, which leads to negative criticism over others, which leads you down the path of the enemy, who we talked about last week. He makes it act as though that brings us more strength when actually it weakens us, because it brings in pride and bitterness, et cetera, et cetera. Go back next week and you can hear all of those. So it all goes back to God's love. And if we truly love, if we truly embrace and feel God's love in us, then we can't help but love others. And while we won't be perfect at this, goodness knows we'll never be perfect, but it might just make you stop and think the next time you go to talk badly about someone off the cuff or whatever, do I really want to put a curse over that person? Do I really want to harbor unforgiveness? So by putting a curse over them, that could harm them. By harboring unforgiveness, that could harm me. When all God wants us to do is choose the hard road, but the better road that leads back to the love.
Absolutely. And it is, I don't know. I'm stuck on that word that you used, harbor. And it's like, do we really want to secure ourselves? Harbor as in a place like, for instance, you harbor ships, right? And do we really want to harbor ourselves to make a safe place, a safe dwelling for something as hurtful, damaging, eternally life-changing thing as unforgiveness? Do we really want to tie ourselves to something like that? And as we discussed in last week's podcast, apparently I did. And as I told the story of my walk, one of my walks through unforgiveness and, what I just felt like God had showed me during that. But apparently in my pride of walking in my unforgiveness, I did want to harbor myself to it. It was like, come on, you're going nowhere. Okay? You're staying here. You're going nowhere. I know I should forgive and everything else, but unforgiveness, no. You're coming here. I'm going to chain you to this pole, so to speak, spiritual pole, or make you lodge here, and everything else. And so you give it a place, whether intentionally or unintentionally, in your heart. You are giving unforgiveness safe harbor in your life. That is what you're doing. You're giving unforgiveness safe harbor in your life. You're like, okay, come here. I'm here for you. And you kind of nurture it and protect it like it's worth something, when in reality, it's not. It is harming you. It is deceitful. It is a trick of the enemy, right? To make you think that you're doing something good, but the whole time, he's just softening you up for something worse. Because if you've ever walked in unforgiveness, or even if you're walking in it now, it doesn't come alone. Unforgiveness has friends, okay? And they're not good friends. Along with unforgiveness comes bitterness, resentment, anger, and several others. Am I right, Sherry?
And a hardening of your heart. And that,
yes.
That's the scariest of all of them. Once your heart is
hardened, that's the scary friend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God can do anything. So I'm not saying that God can't unharden your heart. But once your heart is hardened, it's a lot harder to unharden it.
And the harder it is, the softer it is for the enemy of your soul. The softer it is for him to continue to plant lies and wickedness and thoughts, and the more you sit back and ruminate, as we talked about in last week's episodes, the more you sit back and ruminate about why you're holding on to this unforgiveness and what they did to you and how they did it and everything else, the enemy of your soul is just sitting back laughing, and he's just like, wow, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. So next step, I'm going to put, I'm going to bring in, these other friends, including hardening of the heart, anger, bitterness, and everything else. And depending on what that person did to you, if it's an actual person, depending on what that person did to you, it can even escalate to you doing them physical harm because you sat back, you sleep what they did, you wake up thinking about what they did to you, you eat and all you can think about is what they did to you, and you go to sleep and all you can think about is what they did to you. Soon that turns into what you're going to do to them. And it becomes, you start waking up, you become obsessed because you ruminated on this for so long. You let that darkness inside your heart and it has hardened. And then all of a sudden you're just like, you know what? Since they did this, I ought to do that. You wake up thinking that. And then you start thinking of ways that you were thinking about how you can make it come to pass. You're sitting down having lunch and you're like, you know what? Yeah, this is what I'm going to do to them. I'm going to show them. And it just keeps taking you further and further along a dark path that is so damaging for your Christian soul. It gets you to the point to where you're not happy until this person has, quote unquote, paid in a certain way, right? Whether you want them to emotionally pay, mentally pay, financially pay, however it is, you're just not at peace or at rest until they somehow pay for what they did. And that leads to such a very dangerous road. And there is no freedom in that. There is no peace in that. There is no love in that. And it only leads to destruction. Am I right, Sherry?
Yes, but there's hope. And
absolutely.
The hope is found in 2 Corinthians 10:5. How do we demolish these arguments? We demolish these arguments in every pretension, that sets itself up against the knowledge of God by taking captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. So when we actively choose to forgive, when we actively choose to keep our hearts soft, when we actively choose to not allow the anger to overrun us, working through it, yes, overrun us, no. That is how we succeed, and that is how forgiveness becomes a lifestyle, like you talked about in the first week that we started this.
And not only does it become a lifestyle, it comes to something you look forward to. And I know people are like, Carrie, you must be crazy. Like, how can you look forward to forgiveness? Because you no longer have to carry that burden. Right? You no longer have to carry that burden. And so it should be something we should run toward and not away from. Because when we run away from it, we're running away heavy with like tons of burdens, along with us. But when you run towards it, you're quicker, meaning quicker to forgive. Quicker to take it to the Lord, quicker to forgive what that person did and or said, or those people or the situation or whatever happened. The more you're just like, okay, Lord, I need to take a moment. I need to sit down and I need to talk with you about this situation, because what's happening is, my thoughts, that I want to do this, that I want to say this, that I want to show them that they can't do this to me, and get away with it. But Lord, what are you saying? What do you want me to do? And how can I get out of this? Because right now I'm so upset. My eyes are tight. My hands are made into balls of fists. Balled up. My hands are balled into fists. My stomach is clenched. Like, help me with this situation, Lord. Soften my heart. Help me to understand so that I can run towards forgiveness. And that is what we need to do, because unchained and left to its own, it can become a monster. Unforgiveness is a monster, and I just cannot emphasize that enough. It is so important to do what Sherry read in the scriptures there. We have to take every thought captive. And this week, the topic is, how do you go about applying forgiveness to certain people, situations, circumstances, things, all that, you know. And one of the things is take the entire situation to the Lord. That would be number one on my list, Sherry. What about you?
I agree, and I have to share something. Well, I don't have to, but I was going to. So, a practical application of that in my life was, first off, it's a choice. So you're choosing, when you
Yes.
choose to
Hmm.
forgive, you're choosing to get closer to God. And so it naturally, you're taking the barriers away so that you can hear God better, that you feel closer to God because you can trust him more. You know that he's there for you. You know that he loves you. You're just like when, like, say for instance, a little kid is on a playground and there's another toddler their age and they're quote unquote a bully. They keep taking their toys. Well, you as the toddler feel more secure if your parents are behind you, that you can say, hey, give me my toy back. It's the same thing. We have God in our lives. And when we choose to do those things, to forgive, we naturally feel closer to God. And then we have more peace and we can trust him more. So we can talk to him more honestly and openly about our feelings. God knows that we're angry. God knows that we have unforgiveness. God knows the situation. He's not trying to make us pretend that it's not there. He wants to work it out with us. So for myself, a couple of weeks ago, I was really angry about something, and I honestly had a conversation with God and said, God, I don't want to do it your way. I'm angry. I think I'm justified in my anger. I don't think I need to forgive right now. No, this is the exception to the rule. But if I'm wrong, please show me, convict me. And by convicting, it's done lovingly. Condemning is from the enemy. But I said, convict me. Honest to goodnessly, Lord, convict me if I am wrong. But at this point in time, I don't feel forgiveness because I don't think that I need to forgive. And I'll tell you what, Kara, God takes those heartfelt prayers. It wasn't 1 or 2 hours later, and the conviction that I felt was so life-changing that I, to this day, think twice before I do or have the same reaction that I had 2 weeks ago. That is the power of our God, and that is how much God loves us. He doesn't want to just change a circumstance in our life or a situation in our life. He wants to change us so that we can then in turn help change the world.
Absolutely. Bring light to the darkness. You know, and sometimes that darkness is just not the world around it, and you know, and the things that's going on in the world. Sometimes it's that light to lighten up the darkness inside of us.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
yeah, it's to light up the darkness inside of us, and it goes back to love. It goes back to freedom. It goes back to God just honestly wanting the best for you, me, us, the world, his creation. He wants the best. And it may not seem like that at first, but in reality, it all comes back to love. He wants us to walk in forgiveness because he wants us to walk in love. And it's very hard to walk in love when you're walking in unforgiveness. The two do not go together. They're like opposites, you know, and it's like you're either walking in one or you're walking in the other. And it's definitely one of those things that we definitely need to embrace. And so you're right. It's definitely just take those prayers, concerns, hurts, grief to the Lord. Take them there.
Take them honestly.
Yes, take them honestly. And I'm telling you what, you may think you're hiding something from God, but you can't, right? He knows anyway. You know, you can make a statement like, you know, Lord, I'm not really mad at them, but I do wish that they would change. And, but God knows if you're really mad at them or not, right? You just don't want to admit it. It's like, oh, I'm not hurt, Lord, but I just want you to show them. Well, chances are you're pretty hurt, you know.
Exactly.
And sometimes we just need to allow that rawness, because when we admit it out loud, not to him, because none of that takes him by surprise. He already know if you're hurt, grieving, or in pain by what this person, people, and or thing has done. But they, we, when we speak it out, we're acknowledging ourselves that yes, this hurt. This hurt. It needs to come out to the light, because what's come out into the light, he'll deal with it, and we'll be able to see it. We can't try to keep it hidden, because then we're not acknowledging, our true feelings. So we absolutely need to take everything to the Lord. And it is that is just one of the essentials. And there's so many take it to the Lord is like an umbrella, and it has so many subcategories under it. But that's definitely one of them. And Sherry, what do you think about? Okay, so it's one thing dealing with forgiveness with things that happened in the past. What about those who are trying to forgive something that someone is actively doing or about to do? How would you do that?
Said that, because that is what we're talking about next week. So yes, we are going to cover that and more next week, because exactly, like it's one thing to forgive something that happened prior, but it's a whole different ballgame when it continues to happen day after day, time after time, month after month. Absolutely. I'm excited about next week to talk about that. So I think today, as we're ending, I think I would like to encourage people to just take one step. So if you are a ruminator like I am, start taking your thoughts captive. You can't have two opposite thoughts at the same time. So you can't be thinking, I hate this person, God, I want to forgive this person simultaneously. You just can't. You can't think about Satan and think about Jesus and how much you love him at the same time. You just can't. It's not physically possible or mentally possible. So when you start to ruminate, when you start to experience that trauma or that situation over and over and over again, when God says, experience it once was bad enough, I didn't want you to experience it over and over and over. When you start to do that, for myself, I either will I'll put on praise and worship if it's during the day. If it's at night when I'm falling asleep, sometimes I will do something. Sometimes I'll sing in my head. I'll ask God for a song, and I'll sing a phrase or a whatever stanza over and over in my head. Or sometimes I'll just say Jesus, 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 because Jesus's name pushes away the darkness. So that is my encouragement for people today. Come back next week and we'll talk about the tricky situations where you continue to be hurt, where you continue to forgive, where nothing seems to change. But until then, start practicing this, and I'll tell you what, it really, truly works. It won't necessarily automatically stop after the first or second time, but if you're consistent and you keep doing it, you will be amazed at how God can heal the situation, how God can heal your heart, how, like Kara said, it starts with forgiveness, and then it gets to the healing, and then it becomes the forgetfulness. You honestly don't remember. And it is so freeing. Like, that's the whole reason why we picked this topic for February this year, was because the best way to love a person is to experience that forgiveness in your heart, know how to forgive people so that you can then love truly the way that God truly loves us. Head over to Kara's website, KaraRHunt.com. You can check out her books. You can check out all of the things that she has over there. I think she has videos and stuff too. So check all of that out. Head over to mine if you want to. I have a monthly membership that you can join if you'd like. I have a YouTube channel. We have the Cheer Up podcast on both of our websites. I have both nonfiction and fiction books. So we would love for you guys to check our websites out, SherrySwalwell.com, KaraRHunt.com. Also, please join us if you aren't already a member of our Facebook Cheer Up Podcast community. Head over to Facebook, Cheer Up Podcast. Join. You don't have to get permission. Just come on in and start joining the fun over there. And also, if you want prayer or encouragement, head over to cheeruppodcast@gmail.com and you can send us an email. And we just want to say thank you so much. All of this is done because of John 16:33. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Those are the words of Jesus, and they never, ever get old. I could say them day after day after day. We are so glad you're here. I pray that the forgiveness topic is hitting your heart and speaking directly to you. Come back next week, and we're going to talk about those tricky situations that Kara brought up. Have a great week, and we will see you next